Hello, hello, in our continuing adventures today of the Let's Defend platform, we are continuing, to no one's surprise, the incident responder track. We are going to tackle the next event in sequence. That would be SOC153, Suspicious PowerShell Script Executed. Event ID is 101, type is malware, and the date is September 5th, 2021 at 12:43 p.m. Yes. Okay, so apparently we have on the system named Matt. Looks like we had execution of endpoint.ps1 from the documents folder underneath the administrator account. L1 note: when I tried to decode the PowerShell script on base64decode.org, it said it was Cobalt Strike. And we have an attachment. So, I've gone through and behind the scenes and prepped for this. Downloaded the RAR file, extracted the RAR file with the standard password of infected, all lowercase, and dumped it into VirusTotal just to see what we have. So this is endpoint.ps1. So we see aspects for Cobalt Strike. So let's see, Microsoft of all things picks it up. Rising picks it up. ClamAV just picks it up as Meterpreter. So what about any like the bigger boys on this? Like Emisoft, Boxster, but eScan, FireEye, GData. A lot of the other ones pick it up as Boxster too. Bitdefender's got it as Boxster. A Co-Beacon for Trend Micro. So who didn't pick this up? Theta. Really? ESET didn't? What about Kaspersky, or did I pick it up and I just looked past it? Oh, I picked it up with a generic detection. And I tried to do a little bit of reversing. Although I guess I technically should kind of run through exactly what I did in order to break this sucker down. So do I have the endpoint open? Yes, I do. So let's get a second window visible here. Because unfortunately, I know how long stuff like this take. So I try to make this as concise as I generally can. Sometimes I fail miserably, sometimes I don't. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're just going to throw this at the very top. And we're just going to kind of cover oh god, this is too big. So let's go ahead and we'll transition this over. So here are the contents of the PS1 file for endpoint. So doing a new object, memory stream, basically pulling from base 64, and then you get a lot of base 64. And I mean a lot of base 64. And then the whole portion of basically dump it out, unzip it with gzip. So with that, I was utilizing CyberChef. And if you're not familiar with that, this is GHCQ. You just basically search CyberChef, all one word. That's probably going to be the easiest way to go about it. So let me get these other aspects open. Now, realistically, yes, with just getting the detection, uploading it, and having that many number of detections, it's usually enough at that particular point, just say, okay, yeah, we got it. It's bad. We don't really need to do much more, but it just depends as to how much of an overachiever you want to be. And if you observed the messages on Twitter I put up on the 7th, it kind of gave a hint that I was working on this. Well, what would now be yesterday since I'm recording this on the 8th. Okay, so now that I've got a mass of everything, so if we go through and we grab just the PowerShell, or the base 64, excuse me. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Dump this in here. Don't need this, don't need that. I think I gotta do G unzip, and then we need to do, no. So basically this is the base 64 up here from the PS1 file. We just grab that out. We're just doing standard from base 64 on CyberChef, and we're running it through the G unzip function. Ignore the rest of the stuff that's grayed out. It comes into play later. So we get all this code here. And then we promptly are given a second batch of base 64. That just goes on and on and on until we get down to the bottom here. And again, nice indicator that's base 64. Just look at the bottom. So then let's see. I need to make sure that I've got that. So we are gonna grab that base 64 that's inside of there. I've got it, the extracted portion, in a separate notepad window. Because we want the big stuff. Now notice there is no G unzip aspect in there. And let me bring up the other window quick so I can show you. Maybe. So let me close the endpoint. So we go all the way down to the bottom. Maybe. Oh, the window's too big. Okay, let's reconvert that. Okay. That's just the problem. Hey, there we go. So nowhere in here at the very bottom does it denote anything involving gzip, gunzip. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. And we get all this weird text here. And so what I did was take this and extract it. Although this might have been the point. Did I kick off the text to code? No. So we've got just a bunch of special characters, everything else like that. Use the function to sit there, save the output to a file, named it application.bin, uploaded it to VirusTotal. And so this is apparently the actual full play load. We do get some detections for Cobalt Strike, but most of it is just exploit. And I happen to notice up at the top, XOR crypt. It's like, well, crap. So apparently XOR is enough. I'm going to do a little bit of, just a little bit of foreshadowing on this. So effectively, we've got this stuff here. Okay, we've broken it down to the second stage, and we're seeing this. Not as many detections for Cobalt Strike, but I would think enough to basically enforce the whole aspect. Looking for something additional to do and to basically see, okay, well, can we figure out how to go about doing this? Sure. We can go through and we can kick it with XOR brute force and bake that through. So it doesn't really seem like it changes a whole lot. Until, if you're paying attention to the right-hand side, this program cannot be. Typically, the start, and also the whole aspect of the first bits being MZ, usually an indication that it is a, what do they call it, a PE file, or in other words, an executable for Windows. Okay, so this is key 23. So we take this, we kick on XOR. Is this the one where I had to do? No. Yeah. Wait. Yes. No. Yes. Crap. Okay, so now we have this. There you go. Here's the full aspect. Besides the first section being capital M, capital Z. This program cannot be run in MS-DOS or DOS mode. Dump this out as, I think it was download.dat. Now remind you, the second round, before going through and doing the XOR uncrypting, everything else like that, we got 22 out of 55 detections inside of VirusTotal. So now taking that second download as download.dat and running it through, we go from 22 to 51 out of 66. Still get aspects of, shell code, everything else like that. Actually, it looks like it's a DLL, but it's naming. I think all the way through most of this is more detections of actual it being Cobalt Strike as opposed to. So just the simple thing of going through and doing some sort of XOR crypting, I mean, it effectively cuts the amount of detections in half. I mean, this is the AVs that a lot of people put faith in. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have anything, but it's kind of indicative that there's a problem here. I'm just going back and taking a look. It's just like, I mean, a lot of the standard names that you would expect to see are in here. But I was expecting more along the lines of, your Silence, your Sentinel-1, stuff of those aspects. At least on the second stage. But so I think we're pretty much done at this particular point. I did try to go through, run it in the sandbox. All it did was crash. But then again, this is also late last year. So, of course, I think I always tried it with 64-bit Windows 7 machines. I don't think I whipped out the Windows 732 to see as to whether or not if anything would change. But the constant increase in detections inside of VirusTotal, I think, is enough that we can pretty much say with like 99% certainty that this is something bad. So we've done our due diligence to make sure that the detection is legit. L1 is on point, although apparently our EDR is not. Okay, so we need to take a look and find the system mat. Typical checks, so there's nothing for September 5th. We don't see anything until the 13th that may possibly play off, which of course we have encrypted files detected. But that's a couple videos from now that we'll get to. Going through and taking a look. And not much of anything there in the firewall logs. Nope, doesn't look like it does a whole heck of a lot. So maybe it's not actually or on the, well, it had to be on the network proper, unless it's like a home. So interestingly enough, we end up with another Server 2019 box that apparently is used for a metric ton of web surfing. There are no web hits. Command history on the day in question. CommandLine.exe, new 1.bat. And then we get netcat to 3.16. I did grab that, didn't I? In my notes for some of the pre-gaming I had done. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure. So, okay, so another instance with netcat. Netcat for everything, I guess. Apparently it, yeah, so netcat to transfer to 3.16.42.144 via port 4444, the user db backup.sql file. So I don't think I have gone nearly as far. To do any sort of checks on that IP address. Most of the spare time yesterday after recording the two videos was just working on trying to break this sucker down. It's always an interesting challenge to sit there and actually get to the root of the thing as opposed to the protected aspect of the thing. So we got another Amazon IP address. It doesn't really look like to see that there's any real threat intelligence spattered about on this. So, okay, it looks like it's mostly clean. Outside of this, I mean, I got to imagine that all these are pretty much probably running on Amazon's AWS infrastructure. So seeing these things to make sure that, they're not trying to sit there and kick out a netcat connection with a fake user database backup to some random IP address. It's all nice and staged. At least that's what I take from this. Nothing there for network connections, which is kind of odd. I mean, you would expect something to denote that connection out to 3.16.42.144, but I mean, maybe the EDR just basically did a crap job on recording that stuff. And then we don't really see much of anything that tells us anything in the process history. So the biggest points we have going for us before we even take a look at the machine itself is basically running down that endpoint.ps1. To then the application.bin, and then the third stage of the download.dat. And I should probably record the MD5s of these as I'm going to go through, and I'm going to make sure they get denoted into when we do our breakdown. Because why not? Okay, got that. And like everything else, I will make sure that it is popped inside of the bottom section of the video description as I've done the previous times. Okay, I think we're about ready to go through and start digging through this stuff, I think. Let's see. I guess the other aspect is, why don't we recreate? I mean, I'm kind of taking them since they're at their word, but if we take the base 64 decode, and then I'm going to go back to my extract file that I pulled out. So the first line which is just the text out of the PS1. We plop it in there. Base64decode.org. It said it was Cobalt Strike. Huh. Interesting. Unless I'm somehow missing it, it says it's someplace else, but I don't see that. What if we try like auto detect? Huh. I mean, I believe the L1's notes in this regard, but I think I would ask them to go through, okay, exactly how did you do that? Did you just take the base 64 stuff, or did you actually grab the entire contents of the PS1, dump it in there to see as to what would shake out, even though that's not technically in the format? Okay, well, I tried to verify, but I think having run this down far enough that we've gotten what we needed out of this. So I guess we probably want to go take a look at the workstation now, since I can't seem to recreate the warning message about Cobalt Strike, but I mean, just uploading it to VirusTotal, the PS1 file, is enough to actually get indicators. And it's actually something that Microsoft apparently picks up. That's the biggest surprise to me, but hey. I'm not the biggest fan of Defender, or Microsoft in general, but not working. So let's go ahead and just Control F5. And we're looking for Matt. Confirm that the IP address is exactly the same. Yes. Okay. There we go. I'm sure it's probably due to the fact that it's been like 12 plus hours since I last worked on this after the last video, and then doing the grunt work on ripping apart the base 64 layers and then the XOR crypt. Let me show you while we're at it. Why don't we just go ahead and do containment anyways? Tick tock, tick tock. Not as strong as coffee today, or as yesterday. And it's still well before noon as I'm doing this recording. So let's see. We get into the box. Probably the first thing I'll sit there and do netstat. Yay! So we're going to extend a couple of hours. Uh-oh, failed to connect to server. Am I going to have to pause and pick back up? Oh boy. Okay, let's just do this, just in case you block Origin's screwing something up. Well, crap. Okay, let me pause this, and apparently I'll be coming back to this later. I gotta go make a report and make sure that the guys are aware that apparently I can't connect to Windows systems. Okay, after reaching out to Let's Defend and giving a slight little poke, I don't even know how long it's been, but I guess it's different for every individual system. So once I told them that it was the MAT system, they got to work right lickety split. So, okay, what was I talking about beforehand? Oh yeah, I want to see as to whether or not there's still anything going on, basically centered around that net stat. A lot of HTTP, but I'm not seeing anything basically centered around like. Yes, this must not be like a DNS server or anything else like that, given the ports that are there. What are the options? All connections and listening ports. Yeah, we get a tad bit more. Okay, so what do we got? Listening. In and out. Anything 444. Still no indication of like DNS or anything else like that. $80,443, so a lot of stuff that I would tend to expect. Is it 445 would be SMB? Yeah, okay, well. Excuse me. It's 59,000 UPnP or is that 5,000? $33.89. Ah, really? Remote desktop. Thought it was. Oh, I guess so. Okay, so remote desktop, and then it was 5900 VNC. Okay, which kind of makes sense because we're using type VNC to connect into the actual boxes themselves. Okay, so that's all good. And so that's RDP then. Well, that's not good. Oh, I think it would probably be worse. You tell me that it's got Telnet open. But thankfully that doesn't look to be the case. This stuff was executed off of I think it was public, wasn't it? Okay, show me everything. Show me all the things. Oh, public documents, not desktop. So I'm in the roundabout right way. Nothing there. Well, crap. Yeah, see users public documents endpoint.ps1. I mean, is there any indication that this thing still exists? I mean, I don't think it really matters. We have a copy of the file anyways. We've kind of beaten it down. No indications that it still exists on the system. And it was run as administrator, but yet it looks to be like the file that was basically shot out with Netcat. Well, guess we had to go through and do the happy-go-lucky stuff of let's go digging through event logs. I guess it'd probably help if I'd actually pay a little bit more attention as to what the hell I'm doing. It's like, why is it not coming up? Oh, yeah. Because I actually need to do something. Oh, security. We got stuff dated for today, no big surprise. And then we got 9/5. Alright, now comes the fun part. Actually, when did this fire off? This fired off 12:43. So, I mean, how much in the line of logs do we actually... Oh, wow, well into... Audit success. Well, within range of... So it was 43? Then we jump to 49. So we got 42. Oh wait, it's still 48. Oops. Notepad. Unknown username or password. From a 119. I mean, it's got to do something with the administrator account, considering the fact that was what it was run from, right? Yeah, username was administrator. And it was run out of C users public documents. It's got to be at some point before 1243. I refuse to believe that, this admin account just magically somehow logged in. Yeah, and we're up to 1243. Ah. 'What about Sysmon around that time? $12.16. Rule name RDP, so remote desktop protocol. 316.42.241. No. We got 144 for the netcat stuff. So is there anything in there to actually denote that it's successful login? Well, somebody apparently wants in pretty bad. I mean, because this is constant. So I guess let's run it through rep and alien vault and see what we get. I mean, not a big surprise that there's not really much reputation attached to it. Too much to hope for, I guess. An easy answer. And there's another one, RDP. Crap. Now I gotta go in reverse order, so now I gotta go down. It just constantly RDP, 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 RDP. So this is... Let me get some other stuff like here. I mean, this is a excessive. Just over and over and over and over and over. And another one. Some other stuff kicking off. All right. Wait, did I? Oh, wait. It's the difference in how these are. Okay, how about this 119? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time somebody's tried to be extremely noisy and then sneak in from the side. No related tags. Poor email rep, but that doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot with that. But it does look like we have Chrome kicking off. Nerf Kerf. Cora. Again, another RDP connection. Well, here's our new 1.bat to see users' public documents. The question is who? Yeah, and still the 316, so on and so forth. Find string utility. Looking for AT&T. Mail.live. Love Arts. Amateur match. Meet me. Cute. Interesting. Dell. Advanced port scanner. Again, while this is happening, we're seeing the new network connections again from the 316.42 to 41. So this is like what? Install or extraction? So almost like it's kind of pivoting out. Yeah, I think it's this 316.42.241. So they managed to sit there and get connected. Yeah, because it looks like the other ones are still there too, or the attempted ones. So I need to find a we're almost up to the point where this stuff kicks off. Hey, look at that. NC111NT. So Netcat version 1.1.1 for Windows. So this must be the unzipping. So they've extracted Netcat. More RDP. And there's the execution of endpoint. Again, with the only network connections we end up seeing in there, the 316. Okay, so looks like they set a bunch of stuff up. So let's go back to the so it would be what? Month, day, year. Did we get a rough time that this kicked? Well, we see the 1231 was the new one.bat from the command history on endpoint. And if we take a look, the netcat was kicked off at 12:55. So why don't we say noon up to the events. We'll say 1 o'clock. See if we can't. We'll go from there. Okay, so we get plenty of stuff there. I just want to know if I look at the event IDs. Okay, let's go by time and date then. All right, so we go all the way up. Actually, I wonder, can we do a find? And let's just see as to whether or not if we get some sort of notification of a successful sign-in as administrator from 3.16.42.1212. I need to kind of see all the details. New login, source address. Okay, so that's at 1212. Yeah, so they were all over the place. What was the other one that we were taking a look at? 119. Do we have any indication that they were able to actually successfully? $12.05. Bad username or password. Excuse me. Bad username or password. Audit failure. 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 And we're past the timeline. So our friends from India were not able to actually sit there and get in, but apparently whoever was at this other Amazon address, those was the only two IPs that I observed. So it looks like they did RDP. Question is, how the hell do they know the Windows or the Windows password for the administrator? What else do we have? Probably be operational, I would think. Does this like show people logging in? That would actually give us like, or would it tell us like failed logins? So it's at 12, but that's all let's defend. And then 12:12, we get administrator. Administrator. Hello. Sorry, messages from that are out of band coming to me. Okay. Oh, I would have figured it would have been like remote desktop as opposed to terminal services, but I guess way back when it was terminal services. But there we go, so login succeeded. Granted, that is still, what, roughly 30 minutes or so? Oh, I got my notes not far enough. 20 to 30 minutes, give or take. So the question is, I mean, are we seeing anything else? So disconnect, reconnect, right? Reconnection succeeded. So she dropped. Session reconnection successful for administrator from 94. Disconnected, reconnected. But this is past the point of our, yeah, because the event time was 12:43. This is 12:49. Oh, yeah, duh. Gotta go back and grab it from the virtual clipboard. What's this? Russia, huh? Honeypots. This is... Huh. Apparently Matt now speaks in Russian. Oh, it's outside the window, but this box basically just, yeah, nuke this thing from orbit and be done with it. Oh, dear Lord. So I guess, can we filter by event ID 21? But really narrows it down. So then the only thing that we actually see that day in the roughly the hour that all this crap goes on is 3:16:42:241. Although the funny part is then it basically pivots to a Russian IP out, or just at the edge of our window. That was what, 12:49? Yeah, burn this thing. Burn it in fire. Yeah, just at the edge of the window. And then it goes back to the Amazon IP. So they did their work, everything else like that. Okay. About time to shave again. Oh, bugger. So let's see. We got to see from Sysmon, the creation of the new 1.bat. We have the extraction of that port scanner. What we assume is netcat, considering the fact that that was what, a little bit before, and then it, like, according to command history 1255, it actually kicks off and dumps out that user-db-backup.sql file. And then we have endpoint.ps1, which started this whole thing for CrowdStrike. So we have, okay, event logs. So this is, so we have the successful sign-in. So again, filter by 21. All right, so we have RDP login from 3.16.42.241 to the administrator account. So it pulls down the new one. .bat. Was it the advanced port scanner? Netcat. And then endpoint.ps1. Oh. And none of that stuff was still there. So let's go back to Sysmon. Is this one filtered? Crap. Okay. 9.5 last year. Which is still, I think I've already said that, but it's still very odd to think that 2 events on 9/5/2021 to 1 o'clock. And then let's see. So we are specifically when we had it at 12:31. I mean, I can kind of just guess netcat events point port scanner. We already did the investigation of the PS1 file, but what about that new one .bat? So let's see. I suppose I could have just specified to start looking. But what do you do? So we've got data exfiltration. We've got more than likely Cobalt Strike deployed on the actual box itself. So we can consider just about everything on this compromised and it being used as a pivot point. Can assume the port scanner was used to scan whatever else would be in the local neighborhood of this box. Let's see, so those are the RDPs. So okay, here we go, 12:31. So network connection. Here we go, process created. Okay, so it looks like the execution, so new one. I do not know what this does. Ah, the clipboard thing screwed me. So this is what I want. So if I just put this into the almighty Google, tell me, what does this do? Just go through and so it's enumerating network trusts. Okay, I can believe it. Net view all. What is that, like local shared Domains, computers, resources being shared by the computer. So it wants to take a look at everything. So it looks like it's basically what, local recon? Okay, I was gonna say, it's like, well, how can I make sure that this is exactly what I should be dealing in? Well, because we have that. So is it possible to sit there, filter current logs? Probably not in that way. So what is this doing then? So it's checking for software that would be uninstalled. So look at a local list of stuff that would be there. Net view all domain. See, it's doing recon. So they do. Domain admins group. Net session. Net, yeah, so basically this whole thing is then sysinfo. I guess it's kind of odd. I mean, so they get all this local recon and then what? So there's netstat an. Net config workstation. Oh, and then it's basically just searching. Okay, so that's where we saw all that. Where it does the incessant searching for various domains. Oh, for cookies. And then something for type win install log.txt. What was it, basically just a process to write it out? Or anything that it saw? I mean, because if this is still here, that's a pretty big indication that yes, it did sit there. It pulled all this stuff, and then they left it. It's just kind of odd that, I mean, we don't see this being dumped anywhere else. Because I wonder if this, whether or not there's a clipboard. If the RDP session would have had that. Because I mean, the only thing we see that Netcat pops over is that user DB backup. Okay, well, while you're searching for that, why don't we go... So it's out to 444, or out port 4444. Still working on it. And that's the end of it outside of the range that we have. And of course, recycle bin is empty. I don't know if it'd actually be worth it to go through and crap. Start it again, because I closed the wrong window. Bugger all. Okay. I gotta blow my nose, so I am going to pause this. Okay, apparently it's not to be. Crap. Okay, well, from command history, when did we have this kickoff? 12:31? I suppose if sysmon managed to grab a hash of the file, we can add that something else to our EDR to fire on in the event we see some sort of pivot or a compromise, and if they use the same exact batch file. I mean, we're kind of hoping an awful lot there, but so we get the stuff being created. RDP detection. Well, we got an MD5. So let's see. Is that going to be an MD5 of just the command.exe, or is it going to be the new 1.bat? So I guess if it comes back saying that this file is provided by Microsoft, signed by Microsoft. Yep. Well, crap. I think we're in trouble. More out-of-band messages. Okay, so we're not going to be able to get that, but at least I've got the MD5s of the PS1 file, the second stage, and the third stage for at least the Cobalt Strike code. And if it didn't create it for that, then more than likely we're not going to get it for the netcat, everything else like that. Okay. I think we've got just about all there is to see here, at least as it centers around here. So let's go back. And we're going to go ahead and do the create case. Of course, it still doesn't explain as to how they managed to get or logged in as administrator when everybody else wasn't able to, since we had the Indian. Well, what if you filter logs? And you went back to, like, say, 11 o'clock. So that's all that stuff coming up. $12.07. Ah, crap, you didn't grab. All right, so it looks like it started at 12:07 for that stuff to go through. Oh, it's still set for, okay, looking for event ID 21. 12:12. So that's what, 5 minutes? They somehow guessed the admin pass. Well, then again, I mean, we did see that on one of the previous exercises, the password for the root account was admin123 or admin321. I think it's admin123. So maybe it's the same thing for this one. So remediation, I mean, we've already got, right? The system's already been put into request containment. We're gonna nuke and pave the thing anyways. But effectively, definitely gonna have to make sure that all the passwords would be changed. Talk to the architects, find out as to why RDP is open on this box and available from the public internet. So I think that's effectively it. So let's go ahead and term it so we don't continue running up the hosting bills. But that's effectively just going to plop out anyways. Okay, so let's work through this. It is a true positive detection, incident flow. What type of malware is used in the attack? What would you qualify Cobalt Strike as? I mean, the new 1.bat would be an information stealer for anything that would at least be there. Port scanner would be reconnaissance. Netcat would be data exfil. And endpoint.ps1 would be, well, it's Cobalt Strike, but what terminology would we use for that? I mean, maybe I misunderstand as to what the capabilities of Cobalt Strike is, but what can, if a beacon is deployed, what can it actually do to the system? Oh, look at that, cobaltstrike.com/features. So recon, covert communications, post-exploitation, beacon, PowerShell scripts, logs keystrokes, takes screenshots, downloads files, and spawns other payloads. Well, by that point, you could say keylogger, I guess. Although it's the spawns other payloads that would kind of make me think of more like the remote access aspect. Crap. Decisions. Well, considering the fact they come right out and basically denote the portion of key or information stealer, I guess I'm just going to say keylogger. Was it executed? Yes. That's why we got the portion for the endpoint at 12:43 it fired off. Not exploit, but I think it's going to be the remote services this time. VNC, Windows Remote Management. So it looks like they did try the admin password a few times then to go through and try to do all that stuff. So they used RDP, but effectively you could backwalk it to say, well, if the administrator password didn't suck so bad, they wouldn't have been able to break it in such a short order, right? I mean, granted, yes, RDP should be isolated to only those systems that would absolutely need RDP into that system from the public internet. And apparently that's not being put into place. So I don't know. It's a crapshoot. I guess technically a 50-50 shot. Oh, cripe. Yeah. Can I do like multiple? Fuck it. I'm gonna say valid accounts because risk high because they pulled that the backup SQL or SQL file off. They've now got we can consider it a beachhead into the greater Let's Defend network, thanks to Cobalt Strike. Um, they've already done all the recon, everything else like that. Oh. Well, I'm going to make the guess it would be boot or log on auto start execution. I mean, that's their persistent mechanism, right? They didn't create an account. They didn't modify a system process, at least as we know. There wasn't account manipulation. But they know the admin password. And RDP's there. Screw it, I'm just going to say valid accounts. Privilege escalation? No, because they were already admin. In the credential access attack, I'm going to assume brute force because they tried a few times. Should it be isolated? Yes. Backup evidences. Well, we'd want to export the event logs. So the terminal services, the sysmon, the security, probably the system log as well. We'd want to go through, since the system's already been rebooted, everything else like that, just shut it down. Get an image if we can, and work from the forensic image. See if we can recover the new 1.bat. If we recover some of these files, like the advanced port kit scanner, the netcat specifically that was used, I mean, we could see about harvesting for hash files and see about putting that in for either alert or just block and outright alert throughout the environment. Eradication, basically this whole thing just needs to be nuked and paved. So how did attack? Windows box with apparently a easy to guess administrator password and RDP open to the internet. How well did staff manage to sit there and work with it? I guess it depends as to what the policy would be. This would be another incident that, okay, you get a detection for PS1 and L1 goes, runs it through, and it gets a thing for Cobalt Strike. I mean, that should be red alert, and they should be able to sit there and flip it to just automatically isolate the workstation. I mean, by the time we're responding to it, it's already going to be too late because all this stuff has already gone through. The Cobalt Strike is the last portion. They've already been able to sit there and do their recon with the new 1.bat. They've already been able to sit there and do the internal scanning with the advanced port scanner. And they've already exfilled data with netcat. So, staff management, do differently next time, similar incident. Any mention of Cobalt Strike, immediate endpoint isolation. Then basically getting the appropriate people together inside of a war room. Corrective actions to prevent. Each and every workstation checked for if RDP is available from the public internet. I mean, effectively, if this was, just a whole bunch of virtual machines stood up inside of AWS, outside of the confines of, the Let's Defend platform, then, I mean, okay, you own those boxes, so you should be able to sit there and be doing port scanning on these things to make sure. You can't tell me you can't sit there and spin up something outside the particular cluster that you're working in that's still in Amazon and be able to go through and port scan it from there. Precursors or indicators should be watched for. Well, EDR should be sitting there checking for anything involving netcat. Probably filtering or firewall logs. Basically fire off an alert when it looks like something's, port scans coming in from something that hasn't been whitelisted and approved as an authorized scanner, be it phone or port or port, I guess. EDR to react a little bit more negatively to netcat. Maybe locking down execution of PowerShell scripts from the public directory. Although it really depends as to, okay, would that actually impact anything else for the organization? Okay, now we come to the fun part. So we have our attacker. So we're going to have two IP addresses. So we've got the one that the netcat exfills, and then we have our, so we got our RDP attacker, we've got our netcat destination. We weren't able to get a hash for the advanced port scanner, the netcat, or the new one.bat, but we do have for the endpoint PS1. And then for the individual, basically steps of code. That might be a little bit past it, though. Oops, nope, that's the wrong one. So this is endpoint. And then our third section. That's all we have, right? The netcat, the RDP, and then basically the 3 hashes we were able to sit there and pull out from that PS1 file. So I have to imagine effectively if the sucker was dropped from the endpoint.ps1, it would have ended up being that middle MD5 hash. Okay. So brute force, the admin account allowed RDP access from that. We should make note of data exfil. It's already isolated, so that's all done. And that should move us on to the next point. Yes. And we should be able to finish it. It is a true positive. We'll just copy and paste the same thing we did for the analyst note. Or would it technically be incident responder note? I guess we'll see as to how bad we do on that. Ooh. Technique used in the credential access. Persistence mechanism. Initial access was wrong. And then the type of malware. Well, crap. Oh, it would be kind of nice to know exactly as to what. What are they looking for in regards to this then? What are the appropriate answers? Oh. Well, I guess I go through and this, yes, for the editor's note, there is a PDF to go through and do the read up. Write up? Read the write up? To see as to whether or not maybe I can figure out exactly from there as to, credential access, everything else like that would be pop through, so. That takes us to the Discord. Oh well, I'll keep this video around. I'll go back through and see as to whether or not maybe I can argue the case. I don't really care so much about the points myself, but effectively just to see as to whether or not. So let's do this. Let's jot that in your notes for additional things. Because we get, again, with the MITRE aspect, but then I still want to know the rest of this here. Okay, I don't really need to keep the recording going while I'm sitting there working on my own thoughts in regards to this stuff. So there we go. That has been a attempt for SOC153, suspicious PowerShell script executed, EventID 101, type malware, for September 5th, 2021, 12:43 p.m. Okay. And I guess technically if I get some sort of update in regards to stuff, then maybe I'll just try to just shoot something really quick and denote it, or just attach it in the additional notes. And then it looks like we've only got one thing left for at least September 5th. And then we move on to the 13th. Yeah, so okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. But with all that being said, I will see everybody in the next video.